With the kind of work that I do, I often feel like I have multiple personalities or alter egos. On the one hand, I'm the kind of techie that wants high-powered everything, but on the other hand, I have this desire to be more minimalistic, prioritizing design and space over specs. And then there's the part of me that wants to marry both of those sides together, and most of the time tech just doesn't manage to do that effectively. So, when a Samsung monitor was announced that attempted to do just that for desk setups, I really wanted to try it out, and now it's part of my work-from-home setup. But let me tell you, I've gone back and forth and back again on whether or not I actually want to keep it. So let's talk about why. Hey, it's Joshua Vergara. What's going on, everybody? Here's what worked and what didn't with the Samsung M8 smart monitor. Alright, before we get started, allow me to just mention that if you find yourself interested in this monitor, I have left links to find it in the description and in a pinned comment below, so make sure you check it out there. Also, allow me to just invite you to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, so you can keep up with all of my content on things like this monitor, and sound off by hitting the like button and getting into the comment sections down below as well. One of the main selling points of the Samsung M8 is its design. The panel itself is super thin in multiple places. Not only does it have a thin profile, but the bezels around the display are very thin as well. You get a lot of screen without having to sacrifice too much more space on your desk as a result. The stand is sturdy without having to take up much more room on the surface, and the monitor is height adjustable. Though some of you who are using standing desk setups like this right now, you might prefer a different mounting solution to raise it more to your eye level, but at least the 32-inch size is large enough to make most of the display easily scannable at the tallest available adjustment. Now, this desk is a white desk, and because of its color, it craves having minimal clutter on top. That's not often the case for me because a small space like this can get overrun pretty easily. But in clearing out as much as possible on the desk for the purpose of filming this video, I was reminded how well the M8 complements even my somewhat hodgepodge of a setup. It's just clean, and you have to appreciate that right off the bat. Okay, so to the actual business end. What we're looking at here is a 4K resolution IPS panel. Now it's a VA display, meaning that viewing angles aren't extraordinary, but it does have deeper blacks than it would have otherwise. Mind you, it's not on the level of AMOLED, but that probably would have made this a much more expensive monitor. The matte finish helps with glare, and overall it's a really enjoyable viewing experience. You can, of course, customize many of the picture settings and get it to render just right for your preferences. One thing I will mention here is that the brightness is pretty up there, perhaps even over that 400 nits that Samsung rates it at. The main thing that I noticed is that the minimum brightness is still kind of high, so if you're the type of person to put on the sleep timer while calling it a night, the brightness might actually keep you up longer than you'd like. At the very least, there is a picture off option in the accessibility menu, so you can turn off the display but keep the sound going. When I talk about the M8 having a great viewing experience, I'm using the word viewing very specifically. After all, the Samsung M8 has a split personality between being a desktop monitor and a smart TV. And on the TV side, you can get pretty much everything you want out of it. It all starts with the included remote, which has the nice touch of having a USB-C port for charging. It has quick buttons to some of the top streaming services, and navigation is done in Samsung's software layer that I last saw on the Freestyle projector. It's easy enough to get around the interface and find exactly what you need. Once you are signed into your Samsung account, you'll get access to any and almost all applications you might want. All content comes through at the highest resolution available, which of course might mean you have to pay a little more in your various subscriptions. There's plenty to enjoy on this side of the split personality, even though there are some choices that seemed a little odd to me. Part of that is the port situation. It's my first sticking point here on the M8. I'll get to the actual ports in a second, but let me point out what you don't get first. An audio jack of any sort. The M8 can output audio via Bluetooth, which in and of itself isn't really bad, but when you have other connections and then the monitor does the wireless audio, latency can get introduced. Sure, you can connect your audio source directly to the console or the computer in question, but that can then eliminate the convenience factor. Speaking of convenience, every single time I want to connect a Bluetooth speaker to the monitor, it has to ask me, do you want to pair to it, instead of just doing it automatically. Just a headphone jack would have been enough to take quite a bit of that headache away, but Bluetooth has had to be the main way for me to go beyond the built-in speakers, which, by the way, the built-in speakers here can get pretty loud, but they lack the kind of body and richness that you might want to have matching your games or high-quality content. I kind of get why it had to be Bluetooth. Samsung wanted to keep the hardware simple while making the software as robust as possible. For that reason, some of you might have to prepare yourselves to play what I would call musical cables if you have more than 2 potential sources. See, on the back you get 2 USB-C ports, one of which can connect to a computer and pull multiple duties like providing pass-through power, working as a display port so the M8 connects as an external display, and being the webcam connection for the included webcam. The other USB-C port is kind of like an extra input for the computer, as together it's a bit like a mini dock situation. I'm all for the one cable ease of use, as I like having a minimalistic stand on the side of my desk over here, plug one thing in, and then I'm good to go. It also makes it easy to change between my Zephyrus G14 and my MacBook Pro. By the way, the 60Hz refresh rate is a bit of a bummer for the gamer in me, but I will admit that it isn't as huge a deal breaker to me as my other gripes. The HDMI connection that is here is to my Xbox Series S, and it maxes out on the 4K resolution with 60Hz, which is fine. There aren't any of the special gaming bells and whistles here like adaptive sync, but unless you really need to have things like the higher refresh rates, I think gaming on the M8 is just fine. But if you are an avid gamer, you'll have to play musical cables because a laptop and one gaming console will take up all the available hardware. Let's say I want to play my Switch docked or bring my PS5 over here. I'd have to move the HDMI connection over each time I want to switch. Not to mention there might be slight latency because the audio was still coming from the monitor to the speaker via Bluetooth instead of something wired. The game mode in the settings tries to help things out in terms of latency by adjusting response time, but it's still not ideal to have to go through all of those hoops. Obviously, I'm trying to use this monitor using a more hardware-focused mindset, but that's just not where the magic of the M8 lies. As a smart TV, it's got everything. As a standalone computing solution, it actually has some neat tricks. The Bluetooth connection can go beyond audio products and include keyboards and mice, which become useful for like built-in web browsing, so you can get some stuff done without needing an actual computer connected to it all the time. You can even take video calls using the built-in webcam without a computer connected, and the webcam itself is designed quite elegantly. Those bits connect magnetically to the back and put the lens right above the center of the screen, complete with a privacy cover. It's got decent quality for an included accessory that adds to the monitor's can-do-anything attitude. But how about this? Wirelessly connect a game controller to the Samsung M8 and install a game streaming app, and suddenly it becomes a standalone gaming solution. You can scratch your gaming itch even if you don't have a console connected. Because of all of that, I really cannot deny that the Samsung M8 is capable of so much. It's just that the way I work and play are asking for something a little bit different. And that's why it was so nice that I had a conversation recently with Isa regarding this monitor's use case. You see, she is the perfect person to crave tech like this, something that is capable but also aesthetically pleasing. And by aesthetically pleasing, she means that not everything has to be black, gray, or silver. So the M8 is a stylish piece of hardware that can round out any desk setup without completely obliterating the wallet, and for its price, there are a ton of features on offer. Unfortunately for me, I'm that productivity gamer hybrid that does actually care about certain key specs and features, so mine is a love-hate relationship with the M8. But for Isa, who is mostly on her laptop for work and communication, the ability to then shut all of that down and then have an easy-to-use TV for all her recreational viewing is actually kind of perfect. It wasn't until she expressed that to me that I decided to give it more of that treatment. Once emails and work were finished, I grabbed the remote, I hit home, and I just watched some stuff. And I could recline in my chair or just go lie down on the bed while it was in view, enjoying content in a way that beats fiddling with a computer or even just a browser. And none of that anime or episodes of New Girl or any of the movies really needed anything more than the 60Hz that is provided, so I never really felt like I was deprived of it at any point. You see, it's not until I try to use this monitor for more than it was probably intended for that I go from enjoyment to mild frustration. The two sides of me are just playing a constant tug of war, and honestly, I'm still not sure that I'll keep this monitor when it's all said and done. If I do choose to give it up, it will be because I chose to prioritize the hardware prowess that is in my personal ecosystem, things like gaming consoles and gaming PCs and whatnot. But on the other hand, many of you might resonate with the other side of me that knows that things like high refresh rate and having like 4 HDMI ports, those are extras, when just enjoying things simply and conveniently can be more than enough. For more on desk setups and monitors like the Samsung M8, make sure you subscribe to my channel. For now, I'm going to go ahead and call it on this one. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Please take care of yourselves and each other, and there you go. Enjoy your tea, everybody.